So, okay, ready? Everyone ready? Okay, so this is me talking now. So I know that my audio works on my computer because I tested it earlier, but well, I hope so. If not, we're going to be fiddling around. Okay, so I'm going to talk, and then it's going to be Karis, and I'm talking about the subject of dark social. I spent a number of years working on the web and doing stuff on the web, and now I work for a company called freelancer.com, and we enable the collaborative economy and the connection of people to do jobs for you around the world or even locally for you. So I love the internet. I've been on it since 1991, but this presentation actually starts in 1993, which is not long after that, when the internet was in its very early days. And there's a guy called Josh Harris that was one of the first people to really show what the internet could be. He was a real believer, he was a real dreamer. How many people in this room know who Josh Harris is? Ah, that's actually pretty good, a few people. This is who Josh Harris is.
The internet's like this new human experience. At first, everybody's going to like it, but there will be a fundamental change in the human condition. One day we're all going to wake up and realize that we're just servants. It's captured us.
It was genius because nobody had done it yet.
He was saying this is the way it's going to be. And he was right. I mean, he was right.
He was selling companies for a couple $1 million while we were all a bunch of kids getting paid $10 an hour to try and figure out HTML.
Josh was one of these incredible new idols everybody suddenly wanted to be.
I'm in a race to take CBS out of business.
He was always trying to advance the inevitable. This is going to happen. Let's try it now.
It is our function as artists to make the spectator see the world our way.
People want 15 minutes of fame every day. So we built a bunker and showed them the future.
I'm an alligator. I'm a mama, papa coming for you.
We're going to record Stasi type of intelligence.
The cameras were everywhere. There was cameras set up in the showers and the toilets.
Is there anything graphic on the TV?
They're eating and shitting and having sex in public, and people ate it up.
Keep your electric on me, babe.
This was one of the most extraordinary activities I've ever attended anywhere in the world. Really, the question starts to become, who is behind this, what's going on?
I've joined the call.
Everything is free except the video that we capture of you. That we own.
Okay, that's the trailer for a film called We Live in Public. Who's seen that film? Yeah, well, there's a few people that have seen it. Pretty crazy stuff, right? 1993, guy looking into the future. Josh Harris now lives in Vegas, in I think in a service department. He does some boxing and he tries to survive, and he's coming up with a new way of actually working. I think it's called the pirate ship. It's pretty interesting. No one's going to invest in him though. If you watch the film, you'll know why. He's a pretty crazy guy, but super visionary. He did like real live streaming YouTube in 1993, you know? Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Oh, future. The dark now. Okay. But really, this is a presentation about privacy, a little bit about surveillance, but mostly around dark social and the data that we can build around us and the data that people are harvesting from us. I mean, so we've had the theme from Ryan about cities. We've had the theme from Nick about the data that we bleed and that we lose from our daily activities. I'm kind of more closely tied to what Nick was saying in a way, and I'm just going to open your eyes a little bit about what happens in the world. Al Gore, you know, the guy who invented the internet, right? Or he's one of the guys that signed one of the first papers to turn it from ARPANET into the internet. He said that privacy must be a priority. I wonder how much he used to say this when he was actually roaming the halls of the White House, versus how much he's an advocate for that now. But I think Al Gore's a good guy. But you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that we're actually social monkeys. And a little bit about database marketing. If you don't know what database marketing is, listen to Albert Einstein tell us.
Hello Ben, can I explain any marketing concepts?
Professor Siegfried, what is database marketing?
Well Ben, database marketing is an approach by which computer database technologies are harnessed to design, create, and manage customer data lists containing information about each customer's characteristics and history of interactions with the company. The lists are used as needed for locating, selecting, targeting, servicing, and establishing relationships with customers in order to enhance the long-term value of these customers to the company. The techniques used for managing lists include 1. Database manipulation. Methods such as select and join. 2. Statistical methods for predicting each customer's likelihood of future purchases of specific items based on his or her history of past purchases. And 3. Measures for computing the lifetime value of a customer on an ongoing basis.
Thanks, Professor, for explaining database marketing.
It's quite frankly the worst video I could find to do it, and it's great. I've been in database marketing my entire career, coming on like 18 years. And even at the beginning of my career, it had been happening for many, many years prior to that. Databases have been around for a long time, and people have been like taking that data, analyzing it, and then using that for marketing purposes and targeting and selling more stuff to you. But there's something like back in 1993, if I would have told you that you'd voluntarily provide several large companies with details of your personal life, pictures of your friends, intimate pictures of your partners in IM, and your location on a daily basis, so that people could actually perform psychological experiments on you and make money from you, then you probably wouldn't have believed me, right? I mean, database marketing is like, oh, that's a purchase, or I'm a customer and I've done that, it's great. We do this every day. We voluntarily fill databases full of information for profiling so that people can make money for you. From you, sorry. It astounds me that the sheer amount of information that's being put into the public domain for the sake of vanity and the sake of having a persona so that people remember us forever, that is now actually being exploited. When you see Facebook do a press release and they talk about new functionality, they don't talk about the people using Facebook anymore. They talk about the brands that can exploit the data within Facebook. I left Facebook actually 6 weeks ago. When I was researching this, I was so disgusted with the practices of farming data in that platform especially. And Nick made a good point about choosing where you want to actually be. So I'm on Twitter and I share stuff about business life and thoughts and some of the research that I do. LinkedIn I use, and Tumblr I use, but I don't share my personal information on any channels anymore. They've already got tons of it anyway. And this is ironic considering I used to advise people in my advertising job about exploiting social media. But it's so easy, but I want to stay connected to friends, but my family needs to see my daughter growing up, but I'll miss out on news and events. But no one will know that I've actually exist or have even existed before. These are buts that come from saying to someone like, why don't you leave Facebook? Okay, but how many times have you found yourself actually saying these things? About 72% of all people on the internet are actually active on social media. About 89% usage in the younger demographic of 18 to 29-year-olds, 72% of 30 to 49-year-old, and 6% of 50 to 60-year-olds are active on social media. 43% of 65 and overs are actually now active on social media as well. That's a lot of value that we're giving to a bunch of companies at all ages and all families, and you can actually do entity analysis and work out how we're connected in the world. This is John Adams, who's a former chief of CSEC here in Canada, and I found this quote and I couldn't believe it, and it's amazing. One half is stupid and the other half is stupid. This is about Canadians. I can confirm that. We put more online and on Facebook than any other country. This is the guy that knows, from an intelligence standpoint, how important information is, also how dangerous it is, and he's blatantly calling every Canadian stupid. It's pretty serious stuff, right? And it's like, oh my God, I found myself stopping and being like, you know, you get to question your activity from something as strong as that. But hey, let's be friends. Because we can still be friends in this world. Let's have digital hugs. This is Jordan Harbinger. He's a dating coach. He talks a lot about relationships. He's also a professional social engineer. And social engineering is a way of doing a bunch of questioning, data scraping, and working out who you are, what motivates you, very much like Nick was saying, and how you can actually tap into that person and exploit it a little bit. Social engineering in the context of information security, though, refers to psychological manipulation of people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. So if you go to DEF CON, which is the yearly hackers conference in Las Vegas, they have a huge track of sessions about social engineering. And I think I was chatting to a friend, and this person was in a booth on the phone with someone that worked in a warehouse at Walmart, and got his name, got his employee number, got the number on the back of his computer, what make it was, worked out his location, and then he even volunteered a number of other pieces of information that enabled enough tunneling ability into that organization that it would actually be a massive security risk. What this chap did, he actually went onto LinkedIn and he found a group for members on LinkedIn that had top secret clearance in the US, because the narcissism, right? He then pretended he was someone, he joined that group, he made friends with a bunch of people, and even down to a certain point, he was able to reset one target's passwords and access a PayPal account, a bank account, credit card statement, and cell phone bill. And he actually found out that this guy was actually heavily in debt, and in a security situation, that guy was actually open to a bribe, potentially. Much more likely to take a bribe than not take a bribe to get out of that situation. Massive security risk. And it took him a couple of days, and he created a number of ghost accounts, and he created a reality about himself that then persuaded someone to volunteer all this information. Because hey, you know, I work for the same guys that you do. He even arranged a number of meetings in Afghanistan with people. Obviously he wasn't in Afghanistan, and he actually stopped that. And he shared this information. Pretty scary stuff. But let's be friends. Let's also go shopping. I actually spent a couple of Sunday afternoons, because I wrote this over a number of weeks, going through. I thought, I just need to find a killer video or a sassy couple of slides about retail surveillance. And I could have actually written a 4-hour presentation on what people do in retail to build profiles and to manipulate how you actually act within a retail environment. I mean, some of the things I found around surveillance and surveillance, interior cell phone triangulation about where you are, what you're buying, what you're picking off of the shelf, facial recognition and credit card matching, proximity SMS, RFID, and so much more. How many people go into, say, Whole Foods or 7-Eleven in an average month? Yeah? A few people? Next time you go into 7-Eleven, look at the measuring stick in the corner where they measure criminals as they run out the door. And actually find the pinhole camera, and then realize that they're actually triangulating that data from your facial expressions to your credit card information and working out what you're going to buy the most of next time you walk through the door. And they do that in Whole Foods apparently, and Walmart. Like, look for the camera, it's nuts. And this is the kind of technology that's making it happen.
NEC has developed a marketing service that utilizes facial recognition technology to estimate the age and gender of customers and accumulates the data along with dates and times that customers visit stores. This data is then used to analyze trends in customer behavior and visit frequency. This service is provided via NEC's cloud computing technology, only requires a regular PC and video camera, and is available for approximately $880 US per month per store.
複数の店舗をお持ちの主に小売業さんが中心になろうかと思うんですけども、顔画像から取得できる属性情報、こういった情報を中心にマーケティング販売戦略に役立てていただこうと、そういったような基礎情報をお出しすると、こういったようなサービスをさせていただいております。
This service can also detect repeat customers across multiple stores. It uses a face detection and comparison engine developed by NEC called NeoFace.
ネオフェイスという技術、こちらも米国の方でもですね一番の認識技術だと、精度の高い顔認証技術、これを用いて私どもはマーケティングサービス、また違う部署で言いますと不正侵入者の監視であったり、いろいろな形で顔認証技術を利用したソリューションサービスを展開させていただいております。
Face data is encrypted in real time and converted into characteristic data sets for analysis. Because face data can't be restored from characteristic data, there's no risk that face data will be inadvertently disclosed.
ある時間帯にお越しになられた方の人数であったり、いわゆる内訳、こういったようなことが取れますので、例えば20歳代の男女の方向けにキャンペーンを打ったり、売り上げを上げるための施策を取ったりというようなことに活用していただけるのかなというふうに考えております。
That goes on and on and on and on. Hey, look at your retail environment and look how much you can get benefit from this. And hey, you know, you look like this guy and that guy and whatever. But fundamentally, we're being put into pods of people that are kind of the same, facially. Maybe from a height perspective as well. And then we can correlate that with lots of other data. And we're putting it in the big database. We use that for database marketing. And suddenly you're going to buy more Cheetos. And then walk out and buy a car. And then send your kids to a certain store to buy a bunch of other stuff, and then they're going to correlate all that data. They didn't talk about, you know, age discrimination. I'm sure there's all that good intention in there. NEC is a company that builds a lot of electronics. Facial recognition has been around for a long time. I studied neural networks and facial recognition, you know, over 20 years ago. It was a fledgling activity back then, but now it's $800 and you can put it in your retail store with a phone call. There's a book called Surveillance Unlimited, and Keith Lader actually says something, you know, I think he summarizes the world that we live in today. Your car is satellite tracked, your features auto-identified on video, your emails, faxes and phone calls monitored. You're covertly followed via transmitters implanted in your clothes, via your switched off mobile and via your credit card transactions. Your character, needs and interests are profiled by surveillance of every website you can visit, every news group you scan and every purchase you make. Social data surrounds us unless we drop completely off the face of the earth, and there's nothing we can do about it, but we can be aware about what's actually happening and make some choices. So where the hell are we headed? Again, Douglas Rushkoff. Ryan had a quote of Douglas Rushkoff finishing off a speech. I read a book by Douglas Rushkoff called Siberia many years ago, and it piqued my interest in everything around VR and mathematics, the use of psychedelics for solving difficult mathematical problems, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and all of these people doing amazing things in the cyber culture. If you haven't ever seen anything by Douglas Rushkoff or read anything by him, go and buy some of his books now. They're all pretty amazing. Watch him on YouTube. Guy's a sage. He really knows what's going on because he's actually chatted to a lot of the people that sort of survive in that netherworld, as well as the people that survive in the world that we see every day. But not only have computers changed the way that we think, they've also discovered what makes humans think, or think what we're thinking, at least enough to predict and even influence that. And that brings us to the idea of the Internet of Things. Hey, we're going to be the Internet of Things. In a few years' time, we're going to have 50, 60, 80 billion devices connected around the world. Look, the world's going to be amazing. But my fridge is pissed off with me. And my couch won't let me sit down because I haven't done enough exercise. And my beer fridge is locked because I had too many beers tonight. And I just wanted one more. But he tells me that he's not going to actually let me have another beer. In fact, he also locks my bedroom door and opens the door to the gym and tells me to go and work out for half an hour to lose some of those calories. It's kind of dystopian, and I'm being very sort of dramatical about it. But we're going to give these sorts of devices permission to help control our lives, and we're going to think that it's good for us. And so in some cases it might be. But permission marketing is built on top of database marketing. It's kind of where we're getting to. And I really love this guy, Keiichi Matsuda, and augmented hyperreality. And I love the fact that he just put at the end, domestic Robocop.
乗馬フィットネスマシンロデオボーイズームで
新製品は前後左右の動きに上下振り運
Cup of tea. Fill kettle with 2 hot, place 1 PG Tips tea bag in a clean mug. Good. Now get the skim milk from the refrigerator. Carefully pour boiling water into the mug. You're doing great. While you're waiting for the tea to brew, why not browse some recipe suggestions to help you decide on a dinner that will satisfy your personal.
速くなった!すごい!
スピードは遅いから速いまで4段階に調節でき。
Who thinks that they kind of live in that world right now? Yeah, a little bit overwhelmed and things are being thrown at us. But if you think about all of this data and the social data and everything, it knows exactly, you know, even at the height that your eyes are looking at, what you're most likely to respond to based on whatever. And with quantified self and all sorts of monitoring devices and whatever, you know, the world could end up that way. And I've talked a little bit about that Internet of Things dilemma. If you've got a world full of all this technology that's going to, you know, save us money, reduce waste, make everything more efficient, just make life a lot easier, and it can do. How much permission do we give to these devices to make it really, really great? Don't we owe it to ourselves to be a little bit faulted and human? That's the dilemma that we've actually got in front of us. And if you look at emerging technologies, what's happening? This is from Gartner, this is their emerging technologies hype cycle. You see all sorts of technology here around gamification and augmented reality, virtual reality, gesture control, speech-to-speech translation, biochips, I've got one in my hand, wearable user interfaces, big data. And then you actually kind of think about what works for us and what works kind of against us. And I sort of map this. So the red dots are those things that are likely to be used in tracking and exploitation. There's some things that software-defined anything, quantum computing, we're a little bit too far away. Volumetric and holographic displays, I didn't put those things in. But likely to aid anonymity. Well, maybe augmented reality, virtual reality probably, enterprise 3D printing, I'll come back to that in a minute. Consumer 3D printing, cryptocurrencies, yeah, that kind of helps us be anonymous. And this is not only technologies that are coming out, they're the things that are going to be the most profitable going forward. And they're emerging because money's being poured into it, because they can harvest even more data to exert even more ability to be able to sell us stuff. So what's going to happen in the future? I tried to write a section called The Future. And it's really hard because I kind of think that we're living the future second by second, day by day. I think the world is going at a phenomenal rate of knots. I haven't actually seen a world where technology is being thrown at us in such a huge amount on a daily basis as we've got right now, with the Internet of Things and mobile devices and software. And you know, in freelance we talk about software eating the world, and it's actually from Andreessen, Mark Andreessen. And software is eating the world. Everything that we can do in this world is software. If we want to go to the deep web, we used to be able to go to Silk Road and buy drugs and organise hits. It's horrible, horrible stuff. And then it got shut down and 12 more came up. You know? Facebook actually put its own deep web page out a couple of weeks ago. Its Onion address. It's kind of ridiculous to me that a protocol like the Onion router or Tor, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is actually used to go from anonymity to somewhere that you've actually got a profile. It's ridiculous. Anyway, the future. The future is today, and the future is the now. But there's lots of things we can do to hide away from all of these cameras and all of these things that are happening. kind of seems silly that we can just put a hat on and a pair of glasses and suddenly disappear. Well, you know, ocular points and shape of the head can be obscured with a hat and sunglasses. In Boston, the Boston bomber, they've got all this great camera technology all over Boston. Because the Boston bomber was wearing a hat and sunglasses, he didn't even appear in the top 200 suspects. And that's why it took him so long to catch him. Hats and sunglasses. This is a project by an artist. It's called Urme, and it was run on Indiegogo. And he offered his face to be your face, so that surveillance systems could actually see him all over the world, and not you. It's pretty cool stuff. This is amazing. This is from a website called cvdazzle.com. This is how you can actually cut and style your hair and apply makeup to avoid face detection algorithms. And there's lots of videos out there, and it's like a 10-minute video that it goes through, and it just can't correlate all of the hundreds and thousands of points on your face to actually gain that recognition. You know, some people might think that looks pretty cool as well. The anti-drone burqa. This was a clothing designer that came up with the anti-drone burqa. You know, this one's for the people that find women attractive, and this one's for people that find men attractive. I don't know if I'd wear this one, but you know, you can disappear using some of this clothing. Also, there's the Unpocket, which is I think it's a Kickstarter right now, and it's a pocket that you put things into and you completely disappear. Remember earlier, there's a clip that's talking about how your phone can be tracked around a store even when it's turned off. It's because the towers are pinging you all the time. It doesn't stop pinging you. iPhones are worse than anything else. But you put it in the Unpocket and it disappears. There was a cafe in town built by a friend of mine, Julian. He built a Faraday cage inside. You could walk inside this cage and have a conversation, have a cup of tea, and most of the time you wouldn't actually get a signal in it. It's pretty nice, right? Except there's a big Rogers tower right there, beaming right down in there, and he would have had to have built about 3 cages around the cage to have stopped it. But mostly it was great. Stop. Stop. Seriously. Stop. If you want. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has been around for a long, long time. I invite you to go to a website called ifightsurveillance.org. It's people that don't want to be tracked online. There's a number of principles about using encryption and secure software, decentralized internet, the Tor network, joining the activist organizations that actually help lock this down and take people to court. I'm very purposely not talking about things like the NSA in this presentation, because we know that kind of surveillance has been happening for a long, long time. This is stuff just under the surface, but this is stuff that really helps us remain anonymous if we make that choice. And there's all sorts of software that we could use. So you could use the Tor browser, although when you download the Tor browser, you're then on a list that tells people that you're using the Tor network. How do you escape that? I'm sure there are ways. There are things you can use on mobile. Wicker is secure and encrypted mobile-to-mobile texting, and IM. SureSpot, there's all sorts of Red Phone. Go and take a look. There's lots of things out there that can help us just disappear. If we choose to still use devices and be on the internet and such like. We can even buy phones that help us disappear. It's clear that we actually have choices in the world, and we need to ask ourselves some hard questions. You may actually feel that you want to make a behavior change, or not. I've made some small changes. Thank you very much.